Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're taking a deep dive today into something really fascinating, the Ancient Astronaut Theory. You know all those stories about gods coming down from the heavens? What if they were more than just myths?
Yeah, it's a theory that really captures the imagination, doesn't it? And it's more than just speculation. It makes you question our entire understanding of history.
Okay.
Like, what if we're missing pieces of the puzzle?
Exactly. So let's start with those ancient texts. I mean, we've all heard of the Greek gods like on Mount Olympus or the Egyptian deities, but is there anything specific that points to them maybe being extraterrestrial?
Well, let's look at the Sumerian creation myth. The Epic of Gilgamesh describes these beings called the Anunnaki, who came down from the sky. And get this, they actually engaged in genetic manipulation to create humans.
Wait, are you serious? They talk about genetic engineering in these ancient texts.
Yeah. The texts describe how the Anunnaki basically combined their essence with primitive humans, creating a more advanced workforce. It sounds like science fiction, right? But it's eerily similar to modern-day genetic engineering.
Wow, that's not just a god creating humans from clay. That's like next-level intervention. And it's not just the Sumerians, right? Other cultures have these sky beings too.
Oh, absolutely. Think about the Egyptian god Thoth. He was credited with bringing knowledge and writing to humanity. Or the Greek myth of Prometheus, who stole fire from the gods and gave it to humans, which kick-started our technological advancement. This theme of sky beings sharing knowledge and shaping civilization is incredibly intriguing.
Okay, but let's move beyond the stories. What about physical evidence? You mentioned structures earlier.
Right. Puma Punku in Bolivia, it has some of the most unbelievable stonework you'll ever see. Massive blocks, some weighing over 100 tons, cut with incredible precision and fitted together so tightly you can't even slip a piece of paper between them.
I've seen pictures, but how could ancient people do that? I mean, it's mind-blowing.
That's the big question. Even with all our modern technology, replicating that level of stonework would be a huge challenge. Researchers have suggested maybe they had some sort of lost ancient technology, possibly given to them by these advanced visitors.
So are we talking about aliens giving ancient humans power tools? That's a pretty wild thought.
It might sound crazy, but think about it. The ancient Egyptians somehow managed to quarry, transport, and erect those giant obelisks made of solid granite. Some are over 100 feet tall. And then there's the Great Pyramid, with its millions of perfectly aligned stones, its astronomical alignments, and those internal chambers that still baffle architects today.
Yeah, those structures are definitely mind-boggling. Even with cranes and modern tools, it would be a massive undertaking. But how do people who believe in the ancient astronaut theory explain those sudden leaps in human civilization? Like, how did we go from hunter-gatherers to building pyramids seemingly overnight?
Well, the mainstream view says it was a gradual evolution of knowledge and technology, but the ancient astronaut theory suggests that these leaps weren't entirely natural. They think there was help, extraterrestrial intervention. It's like humans were given a shortcut, a boost up the technological ladder.
So instead of figuring things out slowly, it's more like we were handed advanced knowledge.
Exactly. Look at the Sumerians. They went from hunting and gathering to a sophisticated society with writing, math, astronomy, and complex social structures in an unbelievably short amount of time. It's almost like this knowledge just appeared overnight.
I see what you mean. It does seem like a huge jump, even considering how ingenious humans can be. Are there any specific examples from ancient texts that actually talk about this transfer of knowledge?
Absolutely. Let's go back to the Epic of Gilgamesh. It actually mentions the Anunnaki giving humans knowledge of agriculture, metallurgy, and even the secrets of the heavens, like they were given a crash course in civilization.
That's incredible. It totally changes the way we think about human history. Instead of slowly discovering these things, it's like, we got a head start. But if these beings were so influential, where did they go? Why leave?
That's one of the biggest mysteries, isn't it? Did they leave and promise to come back? Some people even connect this to prophecies like the Second Coming found in different religious texts.
Wait a minute, are we saying aliens might be involved in the Second Coming? That's a whole other level of intrigue.
It's a bold claim, no doubt. But when you look at how many cultures have this theme of returning gods, it really makes you wonder, maybe those ancient accounts are describing something we just don't fully understand yet, something beyond our current understanding of history and spirituality.
This is getting pretty mind-blowing. But before we go too far down the rabbit hole, let's focus on the tangible stuff. We've talked about texts and structures. What are some of the specific pieces of evidence that really stand out to you as potentially supporting the ancient astronaut theory?
For me, it's the global consistency of these ancient accounts. You have cultures separated by vast distances in time with no known contact, all telling similar stories about sky beings who came to Earth, possessed advanced knowledge, and interacted with humanity. That pattern's hard to ignore.
Yeah, like they were all witnessing the same thing, but interpreting it through their own cultural lens. What about you? What piece of evidence resonates most with you?
For me, it's those unexplained structures. The precision, the astronomical alignments, the sheer scale of them. They seem to point to a level of intelligence and technology that just doesn't fit with what we traditionally think early humans were capable of.
That's a great point. The ambition and complexity of these ancient projects definitely leave us with more questions than answers. It's like they were pushing the boundaries of what we believe was possible back then.
This has been an awesome start to our deep dive into the ancient astronaut theory. We've covered ancient texts, mysterious structures, and those puzzling leaps in human civilization. But are these just cool stories, or is there something more to them?
That's what we'll keep exploring as we dive deeper into this fascinating theory. All right, so before we get too carried away with all the mystery surrounding the ancient astronaut theory, we should probably take a look at the other side of the coin. What are the counter-arguments? Yeah, that's a good point. It wouldn't be a real deep dive if we didn't explore all sides. So what are some of the main criticisms of this theory?
Well, one of the most common arguments is that the theory relies too much on misinterpretations of ancient texts and archaeological evidence. Critics say that the people who support this theory sometimes take these sources out of context or overemphasize certain aspects to fit their narrative.
So they're saying people are twisting the facts to make them fit the ancient astronaut theory.
Not necessarily deliberately, no, but there's always room for different interpretations. Like take the Epic of Gilgamesh, for example. While it does describe the Anunnaki coming down from the heavens, skeptics say that could just be a metaphor. Maybe it represents some natural phenomena or the arrival of a more advanced human tribe, not literal extraterrestrials.
Okay, so it's all about how we interpret those ancient stories. But what about the structures? Those incredible structures. Surely skeptics can't explain away something like Puma Punku just by saying we're misinterpreting things.
That's where the idea of human ingenuity comes in. Skeptics believe that ancient civilizations were way more capable than we give them credit for. They point to evidence of really sophisticated engineering techniques and a deep understanding of math and astronomy, which allowed them to achieve these incredible feats.
So they're basically saying humans, with their own skills and knowledge, could have built these structures.
Exactly. And while we might be amazed by how precise and huge these structures are, critics say that, remember, they were built over long periods of time, sometimes spanning generations. They required tons of planning, trial and error, and a massive amount of labor and resources.
Yeah, that's a good point. We tend to romanticize the past, but ancient civilizations were incredibly resourceful and innovative in their own way.
Absolutely. And don't forget that archaeology is an ongoing process. We're always finding new things that challenge our old assumptions and shed light on ancient technologies and practices that we may not have understood before.
That makes sense. And it's like we're putting together a giant puzzle and we're still missing some pieces. But what about those unexplained leaps in human civilization? Those sudden bursts of knowledge and technological advancement? How do skeptics explain those?
Right. Well, while the ancient astronaut theory says those leaps were because of outside intervention, skeptics argue that even though those advancements are super impressive, they were still rooted in human ingenuity. They point to evidence of gradual development, the exchange of ideas between cultures, and the cumulative effect of small innovations over time.
So they're saying it's more of a slow burn than a sudden explosion of knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. They believe that we just don't have the full picture of history yet. And what might seem like sudden jumps to us could be the result of periods of rapid innovation that we haven't fully discovered or documented yet.
Like we're looking at a timeline with some pages ripped out.
Mm-hmm.
But even with those missing pieces, it's tough to ignore all those stories about sky beings across different cultures. It's a pretty consistent theme, right?
It is, that's true. The fact that these narratives are so widespread definitely raises some questions. But skeptics have some alternative explanations. They say these stories could have come from common human experiences, like seeing astronomical events or encountering other human groups who were more advanced.
So instead of aliens in spaceships, it could have been a group of skilled sailors arriving on a boat and being seen as gods by a less advanced culture.
Exactly. Those encounters, even if they were just between humans, could have been turned into myths and exaggerated over generations, leading to the stories we hear today.
Okay, so there are plausible explanations from both sides. It seems like at this point we have way more questions than answers.
That's part of what makes exploring these theories so fascinating, but also so complex. It's not about proving one side right or wrong, but about looking at the evidence critically, considering different viewpoints, and being open to the possibility that we might not have the whole story when it comes to the past.
I like that balanced perspective. It's easy to get caught up in the mystery and excitement, but it's important to approach these topics with a healthy dose of skepticism and critical thinking. But even when we're being critical, some of the evidence is pretty compelling. What about you? Are there any specific pieces of evidence or arguments that really resonate with you, even if you're not totally sold on the ancient astronaut theory?
For me, it's those unexplained artifacts that seem out of place in their historical context, like the ancient Egyptian Dendera light bulb. It's often used as an example of an ancient electrical device. And while skeptics have other interpretations, the fact that it looks so much like modern technology is intriguing.
Right. And what about those weird figurines they found in South America that look like astronauts in spacesuits? It's hard to just brush those off as just a stylistic choice.
I know, right? Even if we're not ready to say for sure that aliens were involved, those objects definitely make us think about possibilities that go beyond our current understanding of ancient technology and art.
So even if we're not quite ready to say, yep, ancient aliens are real, there are still plenty of mysteries and unanswered questions to keep us curious and wanting to learn more.
Absolutely. And that's what makes this whole topic so fascinating. It pushes us to explore the limits of what we know and to be open to new discoveries that could completely change our understanding of the past.
Okay, so we've explored ancient texts, we've looked at mysterious structures, and we've talked about those sudden leaps in human civilization. But what does it all really mean? Like, if we actually entertain the possibility, even just for a second, that ancient astronauts were real, what would that mean for humanity?
Yeah, it's a huge question, isn't it? It really challenges everything we think we know about history, our place in the universe, maybe even our own identity. Imagine if those stories about gods coming down from the sky weren't just myths, but like distorted memories of actual encounters with advanced beings.
It's a crazy thought, right? All of a sudden, those ancient creation myths take on a whole new meaning. We're not just talking about gods and goddesses anymore. We're talking about potential alien intervention in how humans even came to be.
Exactly. And if we were actually influenced, guided, or even like genetically engineered by these beings, it changes how we see human potential. Were we always meant to follow a certain path, or can we create our own destiny, maybe even surpass the ones who came before us?
It's kind of humbling, but also exciting at the same time. On one hand, it suggests we might not be as unique or as self-made as we thought. But on the other hand, it opens up all these amazing possibilities for our future. What if we're just getting started with what we can achieve?
That's what's so cool about exploring these theories. They make us think outside the box, question everything we thought we knew, and consider things that might have seemed ridiculous before.
True. But let's not forget, we've also heard the other side of the story, right? Skeptics bring up some good points about misinterpretations, human ingenuity, and how we tend to romanticize the past. How do we balance these different viewpoints?
That's the real challenge. It's not about blindly accepting one side or the other, but about using critical thinking. We need to look at the evidence carefully, weigh the arguments and counter-arguments, and come to our own conclusions based on what we know.
So it's more about the journey than the destination. It's about continually searching for knowledge and understanding. And that's what makes this whole topic so interesting. It's an adventure without a clear ending, with endless possibilities for discovery along the way.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. Whether you believe in the ancient astronaut theory or not, it definitely sparks our curiosity, challenges our assumptions, and reminds us that we still have so much to learn about our past, our present, and where we fit in this vast universe.
I completely agree. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you all with one final thought. The ancient astronaut theory might be controversial, but it raises some big questions that have fascinated humans for centuries. Are we alone in the universe? Have we been visited by other intelligent beings? And if so, what does that mean for us? And how we understand our place in the grand scheme of things?
Those are questions that continue to fuel scientific exploration, philosophical debates, and our collective imagination. And while we may never have all the answers, the search for knowledge and understanding is definitely a journey worth taking.
Absolutely. Thank you all for joining us on this amazing exploration of the ancient astronaut theory. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and never stop looking up at the stars and wondering what mysteries are out there. Until next time, stay curious and keep those imaginations open.